So we are seeing a lot of transformation logic by using the data view expressions and some functions, how to create a function, how to create an anonymous function, how to create a variables and how to use that variables, and how to create an object by using an existing object, and how by using an existing array, and how to flatten the values, lookup function. So on the input, what is the input type I have given here? By default, JSON is having some array, and that array can be converted easily because every function in here are taking a first argument as an array. It's very quite easy, straightforward, correct? Now, for remaining pros, whatever we have array, we can do that. But whenever we are getting some XML as an input, XML is not an array, right? So how to be, if it is not an array, I cannot use a map function or a filter function or an order by function example, right? So how to convert that XML? What it will be converted by default? Whenever you are trying to convert that XML, it will be converted into some format first. What is that format? Let me open this XML here, products.xml. Now you can see here products.xml. I have a complex XML. What is the root tag for this XML? Root tag. Products is a root tag, and this XML belongs to this parent tag, correct? And this parent tag is belongs to what is the namespace?
Way to learn HTTP.
Way to learn. And the domain is so and so domain. Okay. Now, whenever we try to convert this XML, okay, it will be converted as a map. It will be converted as a map. Map contains what? Key value is?
Yeah.
Yes. So I will give this as an input and we'll try to convert, and we'll see how it is getting converted and all. So let me create one more configuration XML now to convert the XML to some other format. Small change you need to do, that's it. Transforming XML. Okay, I'm just creating one XML. Did I create a project? I'm just dragging this. Okay, it is a project, right? I don't want a separate project. In this project only I want to write it. I'm just deleting that unwantedly what I created. So transforming XML is an XML. I just want to give so if my client is giving some request, first I need to configure a listener. And the path will be transform XML. Okay, let it be. Now I want to use a transformer. For this transform, what is the input I need to give? Yeah, how to give the input? Sample data.
Metadata.
Okay. Add a file. Products XML. I want to give this products.xml as an input type. So what type of file it is? XML type. I have an example here. So in this src main, under this resources, I have some products XML. I'm just giving that as an example data. Okay, select that. Let me expand it. See, what is the product? I mean, what is the XML data I have given? Let's see whether I have given a correct file or not. Yes, this is the file I'm looking for as an input. Now, two curly braces in Java or JSON. What is that? Object or in JSON it's a map, right? You know here it is converting as an object. Internally use linked hash map, right? Now I will try to convert entire payload. This XML I'm converting it to Java format. That means if I write a payload, what is the output we will be getting there in Java format? If I write a payload, yeah, what is happening here? How many products you are able to see? How many products you are able to see? Only the last product. Why? When I write a payload, I need it should get converted into all. I mean, I need to get all the products, right? Why I'm not getting only six the product? Why I'm getting here? Okay. When it is converting from XML, what is the root tag? Products is a root tag, right? That means, as I said, it will be converted as a map. So what is a key? Products is a key, and entire XML is nothing but a value. So here it's a value. When it is converting, in this value again we have a key value pairs. What are the key value pairs? Product is a key, and for a product related body will be the value. Now for each and every product tag is unique. Product tag is unique for each and every product. Whenever that XML is converting into any other format, it will be converted as a, what do you call, map, which contains key value pair. Here in this key, what is the key? First key, products. Products is the key. What is the value? Again in this value we have a key value pairs. What are the key value pairs? Product is a key and value is product details. Assume that first product. Next, again when it is convert to, I mean, when it comes to second product, what is the key again? Product is the key. If any key is unique in a map, the value will overwrite, right? So finally, what is the product detail I'm getting here? The last product detail, sixth product detail. Since the key is same, are you able to see the sixth product, final product? Yes, no. In order to get all the products, that all the products in the sense, in order to get an array, what to do? In order to extract the product, we need to access the products key first. By using that key, we can extract a value. So payload dot products. You can ignore this namespace. Otherwise, if you want, you can use this namespace. Just simply declare this namespace in a header part. Now, how many products you're able to see? This namespace nothing but this products parent tag is belongs to, that means reference to, hash is nothing but a reference to so and so namespace. This namespace is the variable name where my namespace is stored. So if you want to change the variable name, you can change it. I'm just changing it to myNS. I can use a myNS here, and NS is a keyword to declare a namespace. That's it. So here payload dot products. Payload dot products means it should give all the key, it should give all the product details in this XML. But it's a key is unique, that's why it is giving the last product. So if you want to get all the products dot product tag. So what is the product details you are getting here? Yes, please. What is the product detail you are getting? Able to see, right? The first product, right? In order to get all the products, we need to use star. This is nothing but a multi-value selector. Star is nothing but a multi-value selector. It represents all. I'm getting all the product details. So let me convert into JSON readable format. Now you can see I got all the product details. Total 6 products. In an, what is this? What is this? Is it nothing but an array? Right? So
Yeah.
this expression will be evaluated. It is converting that XML into some array. Now, if it is an expression, can I take that into some variable? My products. If I can use my products, right now, variable name. Now, my products is nothing but an array. If it is an array, can I use any function? This is a small change you need to do when you are converting from XML. Understand clearly now? You can apply any function previously, what and all of the functions created, and what and all of the predefined functions we used, we can use on this array. Previously we used on a my products. There also it is my products. We got an array. On top of that array, we used map function, filter function, order by function, because those functions are taking array as in first argument. That's why we are converting this XML into some array format. Then on top of that array, we can use any function. So next topic, we are going to talk about exception handling. Okay, today and tomorrow we will concentrate and we'll discuss about exception handling in Mule 4. Mule 4. Here we are going to talk about Mule 4 error handling. Why I'm specifically talking about a Mule 4 error handling? If you are a Mule 3 users, there are many changes in Mule 4. For example, in Mule 3, you might have seen in your career a lot of many times exception handling, the same concepts only, but in Mule how to use, I will let you know. Okay, in Mule 3, there are some strategies to catch the exceptions. Like choice is one strategy, catch is one strategy, rollback, global, reference. We have such kind of strategies to in order to catch the exceptions, right? Now, when you come to the Mule 4, actually this is a total change in Mule 4. Okay, when you compare with the 3, all these first three strategies are mapped to some scope called on error continue. This continue word might be used in your career many times when you're catching the exceptions. So same concept here also, but this choice, catch and rollback, these strategies are mapped to on error continue scope. These are called as scopes. Additionally, they have given one more scope called on error propagate. I will let you know what is a continue, what is a propagate, what are the differences between this continue and a propagate, right? Along with that, this global and reference are mapped to one error handler. Error handler, that is nothing but a global error handler, application level default global error handler. Okay, now we'll discuss what is the continue, what is the propagate first, right? And if you understand the differences between continue and propagate, how it works, almost you're through with the exceptions in a Mule, right? Let's concentrate on the exception handling of a continue and a propagate now. First, a typical flow contains how many parts? A typical flow contains how many parts? 2 or 3?
Three.
3, right? Source,
Process error handling.
process,
One hour only.
and error handling. Now, what we configure in a source part, you know already, inbound endpoints, which receives the request to the flow, right? Now, assume that this is a flow. Now, what do you configure in the process part? processors which will process the event. Okay. Now assume that one of the event processor got an exception. What will happen here? It will stop the execution. Okay, to stop the execution of the next processors, and it will check in a local, that means flow level error handler section. Is there any scope configured in order to catch that exception? Yes or no? If at all it is catched, then this whatever the processors, again whatever the logic you want to catch, that processor will get executed. If it assume that if I not catch that exception by using any scope, okay, now what will happen? It will check in local error handler. If there is no exception handler, then Mule default error handler will catch that exception. What is this Mule default error handler will do? It will stop the execution and it will logs the information about the error on console. It logs the information about the error, and this error information contains error message, error type basically. Okay, these are the two important properties of a particular error, okay, to identify. And the same error will be rethrown to the next level. What is the next level here? Listener. Okay, listener. That means you know already who is the responsible to give the response back to the client. Assume that if it is success, if the flow is success, then what will be the response given to the client? Normally, if the flow is success, what is the response given back to the client?
Response.
The end payload.
Yeah.
The end payload, right?
Yeah.
Who is giving that response to the client back? The listener. In this listener, there is a response tab. Under the response tab, we have two parts. One is for success and one is for error response. You already see success responses like body will be the payload by default. For the error response, here also we have a body. By default, it is configured to some text format, and I will show you what is this body by default contains. And if you want to edit that, you can edit that configuration as well. Okay, whatever the response you want to give to the client, you can give the client. Whenever error response, this block will be executed. If it is success response will be executed. Right now, assume that I got an exception. I'm not catching that exception. Mule default error handler will catch that exception. That means what it will do, Mule default error handler, it is an implicit object. It will catch all the exceptions in an application level. Okay, it is an implicit object. Now, implicit means we cannot configure it externally. Any user cannot configure that Mule default error handler. When that Mule default error handler will come, when I don't catch any, sorry, if I don't use any scope to catch the exceptions, right? Right now, assume that I am not using any scope. So Mule default error handler will catch the exception and it will stop the process and it logs the information about the, it logs the information about the error on the console and it will rethrow that error to the next level. That means next level means to the listener. Now the listener will treat that as an error, then it will be given as an error response to the client. What it will be displayed to the client, I will show you. Now, theoretically understand what happens whenever any error is created, when any exception is occurred.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, one more point. Whenever one error is occurred, when error is created, one error object will be created. When error is thrown, one error object will be created. Okay, and every error object will be having some properties. That means there are few properties like description, object, like that. So main two properties of any error object is error dot, that means error is an object. In that error, if you want to display the description of an error, you can use an error dot description. It's one property. if you want to display error type to the client, error type, what type of error it is in some JSON format, any readable format, then you can use error type. This description in a string format, and this error type is in object format. So if any error occurred, one error object is created, and we can use two of important properties like description and error type in order to display about the error on the client's level, right? In the postman, right now in the postman, at a postman level, you can describe about an error, or else you can define the error type to the client. Okay, if you assume that I have a two flows, these all things will be having a whenever, if you understand about how error handles at a flow level, if you have a two flows, those again here also the same process. Assume that this is a flow 2, here also assume that I have a processors, and this flow 2 is referenced by one of the flow reference. That means one of the processor, by using a flow reference, it is invoking a flow 2. So execution will start from the process part. Now assume that I got an exception at one of the processor in the flow 2 level. So as per the rule, first it will check in a local error handler flow level. If I don't catch that exception, what will happen? It will stop any which ways. Whenever error occurs, execution will stop, next process will stop, and it will check in a local error handler. If I don't catch that exception, then the error will be rethrown to the caller flow. Right? Who is rethrowing this error here? Once I check in exception in this error handling block, if I don't have any scope that I cached, then who will come into the picture? In these exceptions, interactive is very important, because whatever you feel, it may be different for the actual scenarios. So I will be more interactive. I'm expecting more interaction from you guys, because so that we can, if you're wrong, I can correct. If you are good, that well and good. Mule default error handler will come into the picture, and it will rethrow that error to the caller flow. Who is the caller flow for flow 2? Flow 1. Flow 1 is the caller flow. Since it is an error, again here also remaining process will not get executed. Again it will check in a caller level error handling section, right? Again same process. Yeah. Now here it will go to the flow reference. That means the caller flow. Again it check in local error handler. Did I catch any exception here? No, right? So again Mule default error handler will come into the picture. It will log the information, and it will give back the, it will rethrow the error to the listener, right? Now same process, if we have one flow or a two flows, the same process again. This is nothing but simply the code which we externalized to some other flow. That's it. It's also part of your flow one. You need to treat in such a way. Assume that I'm getting some request like 8081/error. Okay, error. So if I get this request, I need to listen for the request, right? So I need to have a listener. In order to explain about this exception handling, I have a use case. Let me use that use case. Let me import the predefined project. So first I have a listener which is configured to /error, and immediately I have a flow reference which is invoking. See, this is the main flow. These two, this is the validate and transform flow. I have a child flow. Okay, it's a private flow, right? And we have one more flow, get product by name. What is the main flow here? What and all of the flows are main flows? Just check this. I have a first flow is at bottom. We are going from bottom to top. First, I have a listener in the main flow, and the flow reference is referencing to validate and transform. You know, whenever you use the flow reference, automatically execution will start from the one of the processor part. So assume that I have one component called is true. Is true is nothing but a boolean kind of an operator, where the true, it will give the true or false based on the configurations what you have written in the validator, right? name itself, it suggests what? Validator, right? Now, is true is a validator. It's a Boolean kind of an operator. If it is true, whatever the configuration you have given, what is the configuration I have given here? See, by seeing this expression, what you're able to identify, what you understand, can you please let me know? I'm writing some expression in order to validate the request.
Maybe the query parameter should have HP and MAC, then only it is true.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's false.
Exactly. So if I pass product name equal to HP, that means the query parameter is HP. Is it part of this array? It contains, then it will be true, right? Of course, if I have not passed this product name, then it is going to throw some exception, error, right? Then if I get an error, you can see some error options. If you, whatever the message you want to print, you can message, you can write some script. Okay, some description you can write. What is the description I have written? If I get any error, I want to display invalid product name as a description to the, I mean, from this what you call the validator, right? Assume that I am passing. Let it success. Let it be success. I am passing some HP. Assume that this is true validator is success. Then event will be propagated to the next level. Now you know here the transformer. What I'm doing on the right side? Yeah, what will be the event payload after this transform message? XML contains what? Get product by name request as a tag. In that name attribute I'm passing by extracting the query params, some attribute, right? Why I require this format? Because after this transformer, I use a flow reference in order to invoke get product by name flow. In that, what is the first component?
Consume.
Consume connector from web service consumer module, right? Now you know already. Consume connector always expect some input in a XML tags, right? How many ways we can pass XML input? By creating a template and parsing the template, and we can pass that XML as an input to the consume connector. That's I already shown. On the day I told you I will show you how to do by using a transformer also. This is the way I'm converting the body into XML. What is the body I have written? Get product by name tag. It's a root tag. And what is the attribute? Name attribute. What is the value? By extracting some query parameter, I'm passing dynamically the value as an input to the consume connector, right? Now assume that I started a soap server, okay, in order to use a get product by name. So it is going to give some product details. Once it is success, then I want immediately want to print after web service consumer. Okay, this logger will get printed, and at the end, whatever the payload I want to convert into JSON. Okay, this is a simple use case. Now, first, till now we have seen all success responses. Right now, I want to show you if we get any exception, how to handle that. So let me have an exception at a is true validator level. So I don't want to pass any product name. Let me deploy this application.
There are some errors.
Let it be. If there are errors also, because exception, I will get exception here. I mean, automatically it should deploy all the application. Even though once you give a request, then only it will come to know whether the server is started or not. Here the consume connector, because of the data sets, it will understand that.
Okay.
Some loading metadata issues will be there. And one more interesting thing is, if you have an exception at an, if you see in the component level in the UI of this first page, that means in the graphical view, just go to the configuration XML and see, is there any real error? This is the main file where my Mule runtime will read, not this message flow tab. Okay. So right now I don't have any errors, but it is showing some errors on the top of a particular transform because of the loading the data. So you can ignore these errors at a, I mean, in the graphical view, the component level. Okay. If you really want to check, go to configuration XML and see, is there any error in this file? If there is no error, straight away go and deploy. No problem. It will be deployed. Now we can see the status is deployed or not. Deployed, right? Now let me give a request. Yeah, I got a request. I gave a request. Now I got a response, invalid product name. Where I have written this description
The
at
message.
is to validator level, right? That means now see everything from here in this exception session. Please try to understand from the scratch. That means from where if I give a request, who is listening for the request? Listener, right? Always go in a same way so that it will be very easy to learn. So listener will listen for the request. Then it will go to the validate and transform flow, right? And here the first component is true validator. I got some exception because the expression what I have written, it is not valid. That means it is not accepted. So what is the description I have given? Invalid product name. That is the description of an error right now. So actually when the error has occurred, one error object is created. When the error object is created, first it will check in what, whenever the error object is created, immediately remaining processes will not get executed, right? Then it will check in a local error handler of a particular flow. Is there any scope I configured? No. So right now what will happen? Who will catch that exception? Mule default error handler, right? It will rethrow that error to the next level. What is the next level here? Caller flow, the main flow. Who is calling this validate and transform flow? Again the control will come back here. So since it is an error, the remaining processes in the main flow will not get executed. Again it will check in a main flow's error handle. Did I configure any scope? No. Mule default error handler, what it will do? Is it logging the information on the console? This is the error information. And again, once it log the information, the error will be rethrown to the listener. Now the error is gone to the listener. In that listener, there is a response tab. In this response tab, by default, for a success, it's a payload. For error responses, what is this? Anywhere you saw this format in the transformer? Header part, separator, and a body. By default, in a body, what is the error dot? These are the few properties. Out of the two properties, what are the main? Description and a error type. Right now it's a description. That means what? In the error, just go to the console and check. What is the error message? That means the description, invalid product name, right? It is displaying to the client. In which format? Plain format. By default, this is the configuration. Accordingly, I got the information, right? Let me go back. I will show another one also first, right? Next, now you understand whenever error occurs how it works, basic stuff. Now let me change that listener. I want to, okay, one more thing. What is the error type here? What is the error type? We have two parts in this error type: validation and a identifier. Identifier means invalid boolean. Okay, of course, actual error type is invalid boolean. Every error type is having a two parts. Every error will be identified by these two parts. What are these two parts? Actually, every error will be identified by these two parts, as I said. One is namespace and one is identifier, right? Now namespace, that means at which component level you got a error. At that component level we might have multiple errors. So in order to identify the error, we need to use the identifier. That means, assume example, there is a consume component. Okay, there is a consume component. From which module it is? Web service consumer, right? Now the namespace will become namespace for this, if I get any exception at a consume component level, the namespace will become WSC, which is representing web service consumer module, right? And what is an identifier? At this web service consumer level, we might have multiple errors, chance to get a multiple error types. Out of that, if it has server is not started, we may get cannot dispatch error. Okay, if request is not correct, then it will be getting a bad request. Like that, we have a 10 to 11 error types for a particular component, web service consumer. So in order to identify what type of error I got, how can I identify? By using the specific type. So that is nothing but an identifier. Suppose if I not started a web service consumer, that means server is down, then we will be getting a cannot dispatch. So that we can understand that by seeing this identifier, we can understand that, okay, server is down, right? So the error is identified by two things. One is namespace and one is identifier. Right now, what is the, where I got an error?
Validation.
It's true validator. It's a validation kind of an validation kind of an component. Where what we'll do here, we'll write some expressions to validate. So can I call this is a validator? What is that exactly? Validation. Validation is a namespace. And what is an identifier? Invalid Boolean. Okay. Invalid Boolean. So what is the namespace and what is an identifier here? Namespace is a validation. Invalid Boolean is an identifier. Right? Now, this is the error type. The same type I want to display to the client. I want to display this time the type of an error. In which format? Actually, it's an object now. Type means error type means it's an object. Whenever error object is created, the type is created. The type is having a namespace and a identifier. If you want to display that, you have to display in an object format. So in order to read that object, how can my client can read that object? If you give in a readable format, then only you can read. So in the listener part, just I will change the body. Right now, what it is displaying to the client? Error dot description, right? Let me change to error dot error type. In which format I want to specify? Output type I want to give in a JSON format, which is the readable format. Let's see what will be displayed to the client. I'm just saving the changes. Automatically it will rebuild. Yeah, it is getting restarted. What we are expecting to the client level right now? If I give a request, which format? In the body I have written JSON format and error dot error type. Am I getting any error type here? Namespace is what? Validation. And what is an identifier? Invalid Boolean. And what are these? Every error should follow some hierarchy. Basically, the error is classified into two things, two parts again. What are these two parts? One is any type and one is critical type. One is cached and one is uncached. What falls under any type? Any error which occurred and at an application level. That means any error which can be cached at an application level, those falls under any. Which cannot cache at an application level, those are falls under a critical. Right? Application level means if you get any exception at a transformer level or routing level, at basically at any component level at an application level, then we can find and then we can catch that exception. Those falls under any type. What falls under critical? Any example? Which cannot catch that at an system level, that means application level, which not in our hand. Memory outage comes under critical, right? Just let me summarize. If I get any exception at one of the processor level, what will happen? Just tell me that.
Basically, it will try to see if there is any local error handler. If it is not there, then Mule default will push back to the main flow. Again, there it will again check if there is any error handler. If it is not there, then again Mule default handler will send this response to the listener response, and from there it will give back to the client.
Okay. When any error occur, what will create it?
Two types of errors will be created. One is the error description and error type.
Error description? No, those are the properties.
Yeah.
First of all, object will be created. Now you can see the what and all I discussed. You can see here one of the event processor got an exception. It will be handled in the error handler. Whatever the scopes configured here, it will be handled. If at all our scenario is I'm not catching any exception by using a handler. So Mule default error handler will come into the picture, right? What it is written, if there is no error handler defined, a Mule default error handler is used. It's an implicit object. It will globally handles all messaging errors thrown in a Mule applications. What is the responsibility? It will stop the execution of the flow and logs the information about the error. That's how it's shown and cannot be configured. It's an implicit object. When error is thrown, an error object is created, as I said. Two of its properties include description and error type that we have seen. And error types are defined by namespace and an identifier, right? Namespace is nothing but a, if it is an HTTP level, if you are getting any error, HTTP is a namespace, and at HTTP level we may have many like unauthorized connectivity as is shown here, right? Validation is an validator type of an error. So validation is a namespace and invalid boolean. For a web service consumer, WSC is a namespace, and what is the type we can identify by the identifier. And every error should follow some hierarchy. What is the bottom one? What is the namespace and identifier here? Validation in invalid boolean. Right now we got. It should, what is the parent for this? Validation and validation. For that parent is Mule and validation. For that the parent, that means as I said, errors are classified into two. One is any type and one is critical type. Now invalid boolean is fall under which type? Any type. Now we can see the identifier is any. Under this we have an invalid boolean. Now if you want to see the classification, you can see this tree hierarchy. Errors are classified into two, any and a critical. Any contains, where we can handle the exception at an application level, transforming a routing, connectivity, expression, security. All this comes under application level, we can catch. What falls under critical? Overload, a memory outage. These falls under the critical.